So when it goes red, you're
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this, our first meeting of the our term of 3 years after our one that we got sworn in. So welcome here, and there's no apologies, I take it, so that's all right. The next thing on the agenda is any extraordinary business to lodge. Not from members, no, and 4 is just general business. I have one here that I could flag as a concern to be perhaps at the next meeting, but that's the Darfield Hospital and the medical service thereof. In other words, the local doctors are not servicing the Darfield Hospital, and the hospital is relying on medical staff from Ashburton to come up. And there's only 2 people there at the moment. Now, it's been a long and hard battle to keep that hospital open, but I think with the new owners of the Malvern Medical Centre, there's a bit of work to do, and it could be for this board to just keep an eye and push the right people in the right places.
I'd like to introduce one item of general business.
Yep.
I'd like to introduce one item of general business in relation to the CAPS proposal.
Okay. You want that discussed today if we got time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to raise a few things. There was some IG tickets. Our declarations at the last inaugural meeting, I don't believe were correct. We need to have a look at the MCB running costs and the staff input, and there's some questions I'd like to raise regarding what reporting that we are likely to be getting from our service providers in terms of outstanding SNAPs and solves reactive works and the capital works program, where we are with planned works.
The one about the running cost, we've got a paper here about that. Will you talk to that at that time? Okay. All the elected members' interest registers now on hand. I think everybody's got theirs through. So item number 6 is
so sorry, with item number 5, there's just a recommendation that needs to be moved first.
Okay, and that's the.
If I might just speak. So yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, on item number 5, you'll see on your documentation that the recommendation is that you just note the inclusion of the interest register for future meetings, and that also you have a little bit of time to still provide your interests to the governance team, so that can be formally recorded. And this is something we're doing for all of the committees of council, and also something we're proposing that we do here for the Melbourne Community Board as well. So the just need a move and a seconder for that.
All right. Well, you've heard Steve outline the movement, the motion. Do I have someone move it? Councillor Berry and seconded Alan. Thank you. Any discussion? I'll put the resolution. All in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Now we'll move on to public forum. We've got 4 people who'd like to speak today. The allocated time is 5 minutes, and then a wee bit before that, Steve will probably tap you on the. We'll get you to call, and then we can. Anyone got time in the 5 minutes to ask a couple of questions. So I'd like to just call on Graham Dawson. Graham, just wherever you're happy with, yeah, yes.
My name's Graham Dawson. I'm the chairperson of the Springfield Community Springfield Residents Association. What I've got to say will probably take 5 seconds. Don't shut the hall. But I'll spend a bit more time on telling you why. I hope that this report is the result of the last council and not the result of this council or the new council and the new community board, because I expect you people to have a different agenda than what was the last lot. I'm saddened and disappointed that this has come out, because the whole point of community board is about communities. And if you take a hall away from a community of 350 people with no other facility in the area to hold that size of meeting, you've taken away the community. And while these people with university degrees and letters with behind their names and whatever seem to think that they know what we need, until such time as they talk to us, they don't know at all. And it's time that these people got their feet dirty, got on the ground and found out what the community wants, thinks and can afford. In Springfield, we haven't got a bike track, we haven't got a public library, we haven't got a museum, we haven't got a swimming pool, we haven't got a dog park, but we have got a hall. And all those things that I just spoke about or mentioned are publicly funded out of rates. Surely to hell, a hall is more important to us than a library or a bike track or a forest walk or anything like that. And if you take the guts out of the community, all of a sudden you've got no community. Springfield is the most populous town or area that the proposal to get rid of the hall affects. The rest, the other 4 halls in an area, they're not halls in a township. And I think that there can be some leeway given to a hall that's not costing a lot of money to run, that's sound, that is used as much as the community can use it. You can't run a bun fight there every Friday night just to make money for the council. There's nothing to do. But it is used. It's used for civil defence, and I might suggest that the AF8 is getting closer every day, and Springfield's probably going to be the most affected town in this area. So think about that one. When the Castle Hill fires were on this time last year, the news media used that hall to spread the word. Anzac Day services, very important to our community. There are things that it is used for that need to be kept. And in that line, we're very likely to call a public meeting in February, ask for public support before we put in a submission. So I'd ask you to think long and hard and back us up, support us as a community board would, because that's about community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well said, Graham. Well said.
Any questions to Graham from board members? I think you put it very well, Graham. This review started in May last year, so we've sort of inherited it. All right, thank
Can I
you.
comment, Mr. Chair?
Certainly, yeah.
Having been up and met with Graham's community, they're passionate about the community, they're passionate about their hall, and it's actually a beautiful old building. It's got a lot of history in there, going back many, many years, and it would be absolutely gutting for that community to lose that hall. And my personal belief is that we should do our act in our utmost to make sure it stays.
Thank you. yes.
I just wanted to say that, sorry, thank you. That thanks, Graham, talking, of course. And I've been visited as well. And even with the Riwi Alley and everything, they've got to have a place for the community to come to. I went to Glenroy only yesterday, and I was talking to them about their hall, and they lost their primary school, and it has taken, that was in 97, I think it was, and it's taken till now, some of the residents said, to actually finally bring the community back together. They lost the community spirit through that. And then if we come along and we then take away the heart of the community with halls, we're just pulling and separating these communities more. So thank you, and I feel the same.
All right. Um,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Dawson. I'd just like to assure you that the documentation is definitely in the bygone era, and the views of yourself and the community are noted. And I, for one, will be willing to attend the public meeting, and I'm sure that my colleagues on the board and several councillors will also be there, because retaining community halls is a vital part of retaining Melbourne identity.
thank you. For no further questions, I'll call for the next person to speak at the public forum. Vanessa here. Oh.
Thank you. Hello, thank you everyone for letting me have the opportunity to talk. There's a couple of things I won't go on too much because I know I've only got 4.5 minutes before you say it. One of them I wanted to bring up was the speed down Horata Road, which is very concerning now because it's 100 k's and we have 3 gates. One into the walkway, which is not an official gate, but it is an entrance to the walkway. Then we have the main gate up to the pavilion, and then we have a gate into the race course. So we've got 100 k's and it doesn't drop down to 60 to your right nearly at the hall. So, you know, it's sort of, we go back, if you go back to Te Waiora that's up the Horata Road and you dropped it down there, then you've got, because you've got that bend that's recommended speed 65. So if you go back there, drop it down, and you see since 100 k's we've had all that subdivision that was done quite a few years ago now, like that looks old, but we've got 100 k's going past the main gates in the country where there's children coming and going. So that's one of the things. The other quick thing is, I haven't bought all the notes in the history. I'm quite concerned about the Horata racetrack because it dates back to the 1870. All it's defined now by is its fences. Once you take its fences away, it fails to exist. So it's an historic race course, and I'd like to see a plaque put up or something, putting up, saying a little bit about it. Not a huge, just its history, when it started, because in its heyday it was a very, very popular track. And even in the 70s, in the 1970s, like there was 39 people on the committee in those days. So it's been a massive asset for the community, and it's historic. And the other thing quickly is, in Horata, quite a few people messaged me, and it kind of went social too. There was no water coming in. The water was off for at least 3 days. No one notified anyone. There's people with little children. Again, they had to go and buy water. So I'm not quite sure why the water went off, but it did, and we're not getting a lot of pressure. And then all at once you're getting this pressure that the tanks are nearly dancing on their stand, and then it peters out, and then there'll be days where there's nothing hardly. So yeah, the Cord fella came out and had a talk to me. It was very good, very straight up. So that's still, you know, an ongoing thing.
Thank you. Would you like to reply about the water outage, Steve?
Yeah, thank you. So with the water outage, it was an unplanned outage, and the Cord team, as soon as they notified it, they'll come out and talk to those affected residents directly. When the water went back on, there were some issues with the air pressure, and some airlocks occurred within the network that prevented the water actually getting to the end. And so that, I guess, the Cord team and the council team kind of working together at the moment. Don't really know where those airlocks occur until the residents contact the council line. And so what we've got is a bit of a comms that is going to come out around just reinforcing what to do when this happens. And obviously if there's a planned one, we'll let people know, but this was an unplanned event. So the team are aware of it, and we've got a response we'll hopefully share with you later.
Oh, wonderful.
Either later in the coming days or at least this week.
But I think one of the major things is like some people, you know, they're away all day at work and they don't know they've got no water coming, and they've got kids
Yeah.
and they go to shower them or bath them, and and their tanks are totally empty, and they don't, you know, they've got massive tanks, you know, not little tanks, and there's no water. So unless you sort of, you know, a lot of people don't realise when there's none coming in.
Steve, does that water come from the Dryacron?
Look, I need the technical guys to tell me where that is. That's
Because
beyond my pay grade.
Yeah, but I think the board needs an update on the extension from Hartley's Hill, and completion time, and when the water is going to be available for extra connections. All right. Any further questions? Thanks.
Thanks, Vanessa. Vanessa and I actually, of full disclosure, live a kilometre from each other on the same road. So I live on that same busy road with a lot of milk tankers and a lot of bus speed going through there. So I'd be one that I think maybe in the future, Vanessa and I maybe need to get together and canvass the neighbours, go on Facebook and start a thing of how many people want it to be reduced, and we'll work together with that anyway. But the water you're talking about, that was the one that was only from a few days ago, wasn't it? You're talking about?
Yes, because they had, some of them had no water whatsoever.
But it didn't come to Hororata, they did it.
It stopped coming in, but because I got the tanks, I was all right. But you see, Bruce down the road, he had none.
No, because I thought it was Colgate. I didn't actually realise it reached us, because I didn't notice ours.
It's sort of haven't, you know, they don't have there was nothing coming in, and as I say, they're not there a lot looking at their tanks, are they? So they don't know till it's gone.
Just double checking. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Our next who's our next? Samuel. Yep.
Samuel Dennis from the Glenroy Residents Association. Obviously talking about halls. I mean, everything that Graham said earlier about the Sheffield Hall, you could apply to every hall. My point is a slightly broader one. I feel it feels a bit like a Yes Minister episode, to be honest. You're all first thing you come into the new role, and the council puts in front of you a piece of paper saying, "Oh, here's a report on the halls." The reason for that is that we've got a new council, new community boards, and there's an obvious desire, a correct desire, to reduce costs, reduce rates, and try and actually get this council spending under control. That is a great risk to the council staff, obviously, because the only way to actually cut real expenditure is to reduce staff numbers. And so instead, you get presented this report saying, "Oh, look, there's all these little halls. They're losing little bits of money. You could get rid of some of them," because that's a safe proposal from the council's perspective for two reasons. One, it doesn't endanger any staff. But secondly, if you actually manage to do it, if you actually closed a hall, everybody would hate you and you'd be out at the next election. And they'd get back in somebody who actually wanted to spend more money and was a little more who the council staff would like to work with. So personally, I'd just be saying right at the start of your term, don't let the council set your agenda. You are the elected representatives. They put this in front of you. Just send it back and say, "Look, we don't want any part of this. We actually want to deal with big issues." Now, when you look at the report that you've got on the halls, so when you add up the amount of money that all the little halls are losing, they're losing a bit of money. They're losing $150,000 a year when you add it all up together. The three big halls that they say are the high-performing halls, together they're losing $600,000 a year. And that's only operating cost. That doesn't take into account the fact that they're brand new builds, some of them. So West Malvern was only just built recently, a cost of $8.3 million. If you annualize that with interest, that's $500,000 a year in capital. So you add that onto their operating losses, they're losing $750,000 a year on that. It's all of the little halls, when you take into account capital cost, all of the little halls are performing better. Most of them are performing better financially than those big halls. And so if you actually wanted to make savings, it would be the big halls you'd look at, or other areas. I'd be sending it back to the council and saying, hey, look, give us a report instead on what areas within our responsibility have had the largest cost increases over the last 10 years, largest staff increases, that sort of thing, and looking at that and saying, we don't want to touch this because it's just going to make everyone hate us. So that's what I'd say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any comments from the queries from the board members?
So just,
Bits?
thank you, Sam, but just going to what he said, I looked at that same form as you did.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it and I looked, for example, the Sheffield Hall, it had 108 events and that led to quite a lot of, small, for a small community, I thought that was quite huge.
Yeah.
And it made, 5,458. But when you have a breakdown, the cost was 17,000. So they have that difference. But then you've got the high performance, like the Lincoln Centre, which is nearly 300,000 more in expenses than the revenue, and compared to the 12 for the Sheffield. And I was looking at the same thing and saying exactly that. But what I'd like to know is why, and I don't know if we can get this from the council, why it was like, for example, what that 17,000 breakdown was. So we can, it might have been that there was a leak and they had to sort it out in that one situation, and same with a few of these halls, some of those costs are quite high, and I'm not sure why.
With Glenroy, we've actually already requested a breakdown on it because, as with the Glenroy Hall, we'd like to have a good look at that and make sure that we get on top of those costs. I think that there's been some stupid expenses there recently. Recently, they replaced the water tank for a reason that seems a bit silly, and so that would have been a rather expensive job. So there's costs we can get on top of. But the other thing to remember is another reason the council looks at these halls is that they're assets that they think, oh, maybe we'll be able to hock these off and get some cash. But you forget that the council doesn't really own those halls. The council is trustee on behalf of the community. You can't actually sell them because the community kick up a stink. The best you're going to manage to do is hand them back to a community association. So you're never actually going to get any cash out of them. You'll only save that $10,000 line item. And that's nothing. It's compared to other savings that could be made. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Are we able to look at per capita of how many people in that community for how much it costs compared to, say, Lincoln?
I think if you
Later in the meeting.
I think
Okay.
if you're okay, because I might be
Yeah.
addressing a number of questions that have been posed in the public forum in my paper, so I can address it and also have the team come and talk to the questions you've raised as well.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
All right. Councillor
I'd just like to thank both Mr. Dennis and Mr. Dawson for putting things far more eloquently than I could. And it is a concern because I was elected in a by-election to the previous community board, I must confess, and I'm not blaming staff. I'm just saying it's an organisational issue. And I'm on record at council of saying that the council, in my view, is an immature organisation. And as a result, things take a long time to get done. And I think there's probably an issue with parenting.
Well, that's a happy note to finish on. Now, is that all our people for public forum? Well, can I thank you all for coming? And I believe it's very important to be able to come to the board and hear it. It's based on an old Roman Senate. If you're a Roman citizen, you could go to the Senate and make it. If you're a slave, or you're bad luck. But our Westminster style of democracy with MMP thrown in, we've still got some good things, and I think this public forum gives the average person, ratepayer, a chance to be heard. So thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the confirmation of the minutes of the first meeting, the inaugural meeting on 24th of November. You've all had copies of that. Any discussion on those minutes? Well, I can move a resolution they be confirmed. Would someone Second that.
I can second that.
Thank you. Seconded by Samantha, moved by myself as chair. No further discussion. I'll put the resolution. All in favour, say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Now the executive director's report. That's you, Steve.
Yeah, it is. Look, if the board are okay, what I think we might do is we actually might talk about the community halls element first. So we've got the most time to be able to talk about that. So I'll invite Catherine and Hannah up to the table. So firstly, for the context of sharing this early ahead of the Christmas break, is that this is a discussion that this council is going to have in the first quarter of next year around community halls in its broader sense. And so no decisions have been made to close any halls at this date. And that is a council decision. That's not a staff decision. The idea of sharing this early and with a specific focus on the Malvern ward is to enable those communities to see what is going to be considered, how is it going to be considered, and when is it going to be considered. And so following from the last board, this was one of the requests that passed over to the new board to deal with. And John was a huge advocate for the community halls in this Malvern ward. And so what I wanted to do is to bring some really early things together to the table so that the board could consider that, because it's going to be really important in the coming year that the community and through the board has a really strong voice and understanding. And it also, I mean, we've heard some really great positions and views today. And it's to enable the council ultimately then to make the right decision for what's best for each of these communities, because we recognise how important community halls are in bringing people together and connecting people. And this is about what the future of those halls look like. The paper, in my summary, and the team will talk about this in a little bit, is the paper's just there as a starter. And clearly we've started it. Okay, and I appreciate the public forum feedback. But again, it's to designed to get that early thinking going on about how important this is. So look, I'm going to pass over to the team. They're just going to run through your presentation, and then I guess we can share the feedback. But again, this is just to get feedback to help the next stage for what comes to council in the new year.
Kia ora. My name's Catherine and I'm the Head of Venues and Events, and joining me today is Hannah, our Community Policy Advisor. Hannah will share insights into the engagement process for the underutilised community halls. Council owns a number of community halls across the district, many of which were built in the early 1900s. In 2023, Council began work to understand the use and condition of 13 halls in particular. The next step is to engage with the community about 5 of these halls as an initial focus: Mead, Te Wera, Sheffield, Green Park and Greendale. Following this engagement, we'll consider what the future looks like for the facilities. After these initial 5 halls, we will progress with the remaining 8 halls. We will be considering a range of options as part of this engagement. For example, Council has previously completed transfers of community facilities to others with Hororata Hall, and as you heard, is currently in the process of transferring Sheffield Hall to a separate legal entity. This slide, but I understand it's in the agenda packets, shows the 13 identified underutilised community halls with the number of events, venue hire revenue and direct operating costs for the 2024-25 financial year. These operating costs are related to repairs, maintenance and legislative compliance, such as public warrants of fitness, electricity, painting. Included are also some of the other community services and facilities run halls for comparison. Some have larger uses and what looks like comparatively low revenues. One of the reasons for this are historical agreements with long-standing users where they have received a discounted rate, or in some cases no fee at all, just due to this long use or historical arrangement. I'll now pass to Hannah to talk through the engagement.
Hello everyone, my name is Hannah and I'm a Community Insights and Policy Advisor. So, just to be open and transparent and clear straight away, just reiterating what Steve said before, our presentation today is not about us saying we're going to divest the community halls. That's not what we're doing at all. The plan that we're planning on doing is running an engagement with the community over several months to figure out what is the best solution for council and community. So in terms of the halls, we know that they're important landmarks for our communities and families in our towns, and that generations of Selwyn residents have contributed to the halls. Parents and grandparents have run or built or been a part of these facilities, and we want to make sure that we honour that in this decision making. We also know that these facilities will need significant investment to remain safe and compliant, and so we want to work together with our communities to find the best path forward. To do this, we're planning a 3-stage engagement process designed to involve stakeholders and the wider community in shaping the future of these spaces. So the first stage, as you can see in your slide pack, asks, what should we do? So this first stage is about us listening. We'll reach out to identified stakeholders and local communities to gather ideas and to understand what is important for them about these facilities. Identified stakeholders may be past committee members, current users, or other people who have an identified current or historical interest in the halls. Local communities will include the immediate town closest to the hall and the nearest large town. So, for example, Sheffield Hall would include people who live in Sheffield and also Duffield. This stage won't be limited to these people. So like we've seen today, we've got some lovely community members who've come to share their thoughts. So that's exactly what we want. So we will include people who come forward and come talk to us and say, hey, we want to share what you share our opinion. That's exactly what we want to hear. The goal here is to collect key information about the halls and to generate a list of potential options for the next stage. So a lot of these halls are older than all of us sitting in this room. They've been around for generations. Older.
Well, some of them aren't that old.
My
And
apologies.
Some are not that young.
Well,
Greendale, for instance, Hall is not old.
yes,
And
true.
a former councillor lost a seat because Des Worsfold wanted the hall replaced. There used to be another wooden hall, the orange hall in the corner. Now that hall was perhaps 50 years old now, but that's not ancient.
Yes, true. So yes, some of them are young, some of them are older. In terms of that, what we're saying is that some of them have predated the Selwyn District Council itself.
Oh, certainly.
So in
All
terms
of them have.
Yes, many of them have. And so that means that our collection of information about the halls isn't necessarily 100% up to date. That's where we're going to be relying on community knowledge. So people who have been working with these halls and running with these halls for many years to help fill in those gaps for us. Again, this is not about making decisions just yet. Steve was completely right where this is not a decision for us as staff. This is a decision for council to make. And so what we're looking to do is explore possibilities, fill in gaps, identify any information which will be relevant, and understanding needs. The second stage of the engagement is here's what we heard, what do you think? So what we do is we take what everyone's told us and we share it back with the public. We say, here's the options that people have told us, here's what everyone's thought, what do you think? What should we do? The aim is to narrow down the options to 2 or 3 through the second engagement, which are the most viable with community support. This step ensures transparency and gives the public a chance to influence which options move forward. So our third stage is here's the options, what should we do? So stage 3 is when we go through a formal consultation process. As these halls are significant assets within Council's significant and engagement policy, it means it has to go through a formal consultation process, which includes hearings like an LTP. The goal through this process is to get a clear mandate from the community about which option to proceed with. This stage is critical because it aligns with council planning and funding decisions in the long-term plan. So this whole process is trying to ensure that the halls have a community-driven, transparent, and aligned with long-term planning. We want to make sure that these spaces continue to meet current and future needs, whichever decision is made. So in the next slides, you've got some challenges and opportunities, and we'll take them as read. But again, we'll note that the purpose of this process is not to divest the halls. The purpose is to find the best solution for council and community. So just moving on from that, we see a really great opportunity with the Malvern Community Board to assist us as staff in this engagement process with their contacts. We haven't got a huge budget in terms of this engagement process, so it's being run in-house with staff alone. We don't have a budget to be able to contract out. So we need to rely on contacts that everyone has. So some questions that we would like you to consider and send back to us if you have time later on, either through the chair or through Steve. Are there any groups or people that you are aware of that we should be talking to in stage one? So anyone that you know of who you think is a stakeholder for any of those 5 halls, we want to know who they are. Are there any events that we could go to within our engagement period? So that's from around April to June next year. We just need to be confirmed by council. But if there's any community events that you're aware of, we would like to be there because we would like to be able to talk to people. And the last question is, how would you tell that this engagement has been successful? So what would it look like for you for this engagement to have been successful with our community? So that's our presentation today. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Yep. Well, it's open for discussion, board members. Anyone got any comments or questions?
Yeah. Really supportive to be that engagement to the community to understand their thoughts around the halls. And through that engagement, you talked about maintenance cost and operating cost being high, which is the purpose and the drive to look at these halls. Through that engagement, will you be open to other suggestions? For example, if a community wanted to transfer that ownership back to them, but they wanted it money spent on the hall for it to be in good operating condition before, they started looking after the hall. Are you open to those types of options if the community comes back?
That will certainly all be taken in as part of this feedback process.
Definitely.
For sure.
So it's definitely an option that we would be open to and supportive of. But ultimately, any decisions about money being invested into the hall is a council decision. So that would have to go through a long-term plan. But yes, absolutely. If that's the most favoured option by the community, then that's what we would present to council.
Brilliant. And part of that engagement, it'll be really good to get the breakdown on the cost as that's already raised, because some of this venue hire was a small amount, but the operating cost was very high. So just really keen to understand, if it wasn't actually being used, how is it that the operating cost is high?
Yeah, for sure. That's absolutely, and Steve also passed on a query about Glenroy, and that will be shared. That's already been submitted. So really happy to provide that information. But generally speaking, for your information, there's things like pest control, building washdowns, fire safety checks. There's all sorts of things that generally happen as part of those operating costs, but hall by hall, we can provide the breakdown.
That would be great, because that will help with the conversation around where those costs have gone and why it is high.
Thank you. And you asked about what events you can go to. Or Anzac Days are coming up, and you'll see a turnout there of substantial numbers of people at places like Springfield. And Greendale has every 2 years they have an Anzac.
Yes, they're due next year. They
That's
didn't
right.
have one in 2025.
But can I say that some of the fees and charges that have been levied now are driving people away from using the halls. And you'd be absolutely surprised about the concern in the community about how much it costs for an hour, say, and all that kind of stuff. And I can tell you, like Darfield Probus shifted from the rec centre at Darfield to the Baptist Church, because and when we started over there, when I started going 10 years ago, and this is how the costs are built up. We used to put our own chairs out and put them away again, and then council in their wisdom said, "No, we'll do it." But they didn't say they're going to charge for it, and this is where your costs are coming in, because the people, the users, are doing nothing, and council are doing, well, adding costs.
Yeah, and thank you for that feedback.
And we can talk about that in the.
Yeah, really, really happy to talk about that. And I'd like to talk to you about that example in particular, because I can share some information that would be relevant.
Well, have we had any further? Oh, John, sorry.
Yeah, no, look, thank you for the presentation, and I really understand where you're coming from, and it's good to see what's happening. Just a comment from me, and I realise my role is governance, not operational, but also in my previous role on the board, it was community engagement and advocacy. And one of the things that I've picked up from the residents and communities that I've worked with over the last couple of years is that council has collated or obtained a great wealth of information, not asking for all that to be passed on. But my view of consultation is, unless council is willing to share the information in some constructive format as to what they have, and then the community, many communities like Glenroy already have a list of information. So there's a fact checking between the two, and if there's agreement, it can be ticked off. If there's disagreement, it can be discussed. And then I think you've got a good foundation on which to have community engagement.
I think on behalf of the team, I think it's actually a really good idea, because I think some of the conversations you and I have had about a couple of halls in the last 3 or 4 months, just around triangulating what data exists in the community and what data council has and the history of some of this stuff. I think it is important that we get the story right and we get the ownership right and we get how this thing came to be in the first place. And so understanding that, because as a governor, you're right, John, you'll want to know this information for when you are actually going to make a decision. So thank you for that guidance.
Yeah, if I can just add to that. So the stage that we took before this engagement stage was an in-depth 6-month research project. So we got a staff member and their job was to find out as much as they possibly can, going through records, going into like paper records, going into records rooms and Wigram, everywhere, to find out as much as they possibly could about what council knew about the halls. That involved Gazette searches and everything. So as part of that, in the engagement, we will be presenting that information back in an easy to understand format, because 6 months worth of research can be quite full on, but it will be presented back in what you're talking about it as here's what we know, where are the gaps. Yeah.
Thank you. And the other,
Sorry, I have one micro question, I suppose, relating to the fixed costs, operating costs for the halls. With the building warrants of fitness, that's costing on average around $800 a building now, but that's including council's auditing costs for the building warrant of fitness. Are you in fact auditing your own halls?
Is the question, are we checking?
Are you, yeah, but when a building warrant of fitness is done, by the likes of Firefighting Pacific, whatever, do you then go and do an audit on your own halls in the same way you do an audit on private business houses?
Yes, we check them all the same way. Everything has to be treated the same.
Yeah, cool.
all right, we had a good discussion on that. I think we can, if I can just leave you one thought with going, get to know the community, go to the Residents Association meeting, in the new year when you start this, and you'll come away with a new view of things.
Thanks, team. So that's dealt with one item on my report. So if you're what I might do now is just then work through the rest of the report in order. Chair and board members, you can guide us, and Sophie, come to the table if you can. So one of the questions from your inaugural meeting was you wanted a little bit more information from staff on the laws affecting this board and board members, and you just wanted someone a little bit more qualified than I to come and talk to you with a bit more confidence than I could assure you. So I've got Sophie here, who's actually a lawyer, to answer any specific questions or just give you a little bit more of a run through on those main laws. So do you want to go first, Soph, real quick, and just explain these laws again? Better than I did, obviously. And then you're there to answer questions from the board.
Thank you.
Kia ora everyone. So yes, I'm Sophie Mears. I'm a senior legal counsel in the legal team. So I'm here to talk to you about the laws affecting elected members. So the key thing to bear in mind about that paper that was brought to your inaugural meeting is that the inaugural meeting requirements are highly specified in the Local Government Act, and there's those specific ones that we came to talk to you about, or that Steve came to talk to you about, is what was prescribed. But obviously there's a lot more laws affecting the council. So that was just sort of the key ones that have got some particular penalties if they're not complied with, and particular personal ramifications for you as elected members as well. So that's why it was those particular ones. I think I want to leave a bit of time for questions, because I think that's where the real benefit in me being is here, is that I can answer those specific questions. But the laws affecting elected members in that paper that was brought to you largely fall into 5 different categories. The first is the information laws, so obviously the Local Government Official Information Act and the Public Records Act. The second is your interests. So there was a presentation about the Local Authority Members Interests Act, but bearing in mind that that's also governed by the declarations that you've all been asked to do about your interests, and also your code of conduct as well. So I'll talk a little bit about that. There's also the bribes and secret commissions. So you were told about the Secret Commissions Act and the Crimes Act. Obviously that's just not accepting bribes or any sort of payment in kind for carrying out any actions or not carrying out any actions in your role as an elected member. There was a wee bit about the Financial Markets Conduct Act. That one doesn't really apply to you guys, because that's to do with financial products, and this board is not in charge of any financial products. In fact, the council is not in charge of many, if anything. There's some LGFA securities that we issue, but that's not really for you guys. Then there was a bit about your potential personal liability, and that's essentially if you go don't act in good faith, there is some potential personal liability, but that we do have some protections for you as elected members if you do act in good faith. Yeah, so that's, I guess, those general categories. The one that I will delve into a bit more before I open for questions is elected members' interests. So there's 3 things really that govern your interests and how that interplays with your obligations as elected members. There's the Local Authority Members Interest Act. There's the particular section of the Local Government Act which dictates your declarations that you've had to make. So all of you have been asked to make those declarations. Those are not due until February, but they're in there. And then finally, there's the Code of Conduct, which sort of encompasses everything and goes a lot further. So the Local Authority Members Interest Act, that talks about your interests and your spouse's interests, and how that means that you're disqualified from making decisions on issues that cut across your interests or your spouse or partner's interests, and there's certain thresholds for that. The Local Government Act, that regime is about the declarations that you have to do by February next year, and then you have to update annually. That essentially sets out that you must do a declaration to council of your pecuniary interests that you have, and so you'll receive that form with all the different questions. So that's essentially trying to elicit all the different kinds of pecuniary interests that you might have, and so that one just affects you and not your spouse. And so most of you I've done that already. There's a few clarifying questions that me and the governance team will be coming back to you with. To make sure that those are all accurate and correct. The key thing I'd highlight on those declarations is that the obligation is on you as elected members to make sure that's correct. We're here to advise and support you, and the Chief Executive is effectively the registrar of that elected members' interest list, but the obligation is on you to make sure you tell us about those interests. I guess the key takeaway is, if in doubt, disclose. Whether you think it's pecuniary or not, just tell us so that we can help you, and we can do that in person, over email, email the governance inbox, and we can help you out with that. And the other key takeaway is it's not a one and done. You do your declaration by February, but just keep us up to date if things change. And I think I was going to cover off the code of conduct as well. So that goes further and says that you're expected as elected members under the code of conduct to make all the declarations under LGA, but also let us know about your spouse's interests as well. So we'll cover that one off once we've sorted out all the LGA declarations. Okay, I think I'll stop there and answer any specific questions that you've got about any of those laws.
Thank you very much for that. That was a fairly heavy summary in a few minutes, but that's good. And you know, there's been a few members about the some of those questions, particularly interests, you know, and so it's open for discussion. Do I have? Don't all put your hands up at once.
I just did want to clarify, is it to do with Selwyn? So it's interest you have within the Selwyn district that you have to declare?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So there might be interests that you have outside the district that could potentially cut across business. So if you've got interest in a national organisation that has views on particular issues, that could cut across the business that you're dealing with as an elected member. So again, if in doubt, just disclose.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the questions in the sheet that I looked at is about if you belong to other organisations. Let's say you're a member of the Working Men's Club committee. Now, surely that doesn't come into it. It does.
No, well, so I would say to disclose any club, organisation, any society, that kind of thing. Let us know if you, whether it's pecuniary or not. Let us know. It doesn't become a conflict until there's actually a matter of business arising that conflicts with that interest.
Okay.
So disclose the interest regardless of whether you think there will be a conflict or not. So we won't say if you disclose the Working Man Club, we won't say definitely.
I've got one more to put on my list.
Right.
Yeah, because I didn't think that some of those things, but then just yeah.
Yeah. I think if there's any interest that you're disclosing to us that you don't think are relevant, again, if in doubt, disclose. But if you want for some reason for that interest to be private, like obviously with in any public information, we will be redacting your personal addresses. Obviously, if you own a property, that's an interest, but we're redacting that. If there's an equivalent organisation where for some reason you want to keep it private, let us know what that privacy reason is, and it can be withheld under Nagorno.
Thank you. Well, members of Bex, yes, you got something.
I've on mine it's pulled up a few things, but none of them are anything to do with Selwyn, but obviously they clearly want to know. But things that are trusts that are inactive, and hence why I didn't put them in, and it's all popped up, and so I don't know how much. It's because nothing's to do with Selwyn at all. It's all in Ashburton. It's all it's a business that's a motel, so it doesn't have anything to do with anything I'm doing here. So I'm just a bit confused.
Yeah, so I think I would disclose that, and we will include it because even if it's outside of the district, it still could potentially have an impact. So, like I say, if in doubt, disclose. And if for some reason you want to keep that private, let us know why. And the other point is if there's like an inactive society or an inactive trust, that's still a legal interest, regardless of whether it's operating or not. So, if an incorporated society is still registered with, even if it's not carrying out business, that's still an interest.
15 years, it's still there.
Yeah. I mean, it should be, deregistered and
still just no, all good.
if I can just say, look, if in doubt, let Sophie or I know, and Sophie will give you some really good advice. And if it's a phone call or it's just a quick chat, just to raise, and this is something that we're all doing a bit new this year. So ask the questions early, and then we can provide you the best advice. Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
Thank-
Well, I think we've got to
Yeah,
work on a few things. And thank you very much, Sophie.
cool. I might just get Sophie to hang here because I'm mindful, if you're okay, a matter of general business that Barry raised in regards to our inaugural meeting. And given Sophie's here, I'm wondering if you're okay if we
Take that now.
deal with that now, so then Sophie can head back to work. Barry, do you want to talk about what you perceive as the issue?
Yeah, so when we signed our declarations, it read that we were accepting, or accepting is maybe not the right word, but we were declaring to be the servant of as an elected member of the Selwyn District Council. And I don't think that's correct. It should have been the Malvern Community Board. And at that time, I know Evan changed his wording on the fly when he was reading it out. And I think Alan made a pretty good attempt at doing that, and Bex did as well. I think what had happened is they'd listened to us other two and thought, that's not right, and then tried to change on the fly. So my question is that correct, that we, as it read literally, we were elected as members of the Selwyn District Council? Because if that's the case, we're sitting in the wrong chair and we should be down the road.
So yes, you are an elected member of the Selwyn District Council. It's just that you sit under the council as governing body. So the wording of that declaration is prescribed in the Local Government Act, Schedule 7. I can't remember exactly what clause, but it's in there. The words Selwyn District Council are prescribed. Yes, you are an elected member of the Selwyn District Council, and yes, you are sitting in the right chair. So all of these things can be true. And so it's just like to confirm that that declaration was correct.
Because my understanding is that the Malvern Community Board is independent of the Selwyn District Council. And I don't see how you can word it like that and then still have us operating in a separate organisation.
So I would say you're not entirely independent. So the Malvern Community Board does sit under the council, but obviously you do make your own decisions. So yeah, in a sense, I understand where you're coming from, independent, but not quite. Yeah.
Right, Barry, does it help clarify or confuse?
It clarifies it, but I'm still not happy with the answer.
Okay, thank you. Steve, another ex-lawyer.
No, I'm speaking as a private citizen. I no longer have a practicing certificate, so I can't comment on matters of law. But my reading of the relevant legislation is that the community boards were set up specifically in their own legal entity, and they are not a committee of council. So can I just ask that maybe a little bit further legal research, no disrespect, legal research is done and a bit of a formal opinion comes back?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I guess you're correct, it is a separate legal entity, but it does sit under the council. And the wording of that declaration is correct per the legislation as well.
So I think it's a really great question. I understand you've got the answer that may not be what you're thinking. And to be fair, I think we all were raising a few eyebrows. What we can do is we'll come back for the next meeting with that legal statement, and then we can hopefully, if you're okay with that, Barry, we can close that matter off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Yep. Thank you, Sophie.
So, sorry, the next item on my paper is just the meeting schedule for 2026. And this discussion would like the board to have is to consider the day you wish to meet in 2026, and the week and the month that you wish to meet. And I've got a recommendation on that from a information point of view that I can share with you, and then also a frequency of the meetings. The previous board met regularly on Mondays, roughly about this time of the month, albeit maybe a week later, on a monthly basis. And when we are looking at the support charges, which I've provided you some options and some clarity that the previous board requested from me in this report, to try and get real clarity and transparency in the way in which the costs of this community board are then structured to then become the targeted rate that then goes to the community to pay for the presence of a community board. So we're building the building blocks for the next annual plan budget for you. So hopefully there's a degree of transparency. You can see that line of sight now. But what determines ultimately those support costs, now that we've moved away from that formula that shall never be talked of, is we are now towards you deciding how much, how often, and when for next year. This would come into play from the start of next year, so in terms of your meeting schedule, and we will then communicate to the governance, who will then put that into council's meeting cycle that then gets promoted to the community. Probably the only thing I'd ask, and this is one of the reasons why the financial report was tabled slightly late for this meeting and not available initially with that pack of information, was that if we can make that meeting in terms of week on the fourth week, then we can make sure you get access to the financial performance data from that immediate preceding month, rather than having to deal with what the previous board had to juggle with, which is about a 6-week delay in financial reporting. And we think if we push it back a week, we can actually give you a little bit closer data around how this board's performing financially.
All right, so we have to decide as a committee what our schedule for the coming year is. And I, for one, like the idea of getting away from Monday, because you get to Thursday and the council staff at least got some time for us if we need it. The other thing is, with a Monday, it's jolly hard to get a report into the Selwyn Times by about 11 o'clock on Tuesday morning. So this one, if it's Thursday meeting, we'd have at least a whole day to get something to put together, or even you'd have Friday and Monday for Tuesday.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Looking at the costs, if we put that out to the community, they're going to say we don't want a community board, bloody $156,000 a year to run it just from an administration point of view. You have to be joking. That's what I see there is the number of hours. There's 1.2 full-time equivalents to run just the administration for this board across all of the staff, and I can't see how that is how that's occurred. It's really it's out there. To mitigate that, I would suggest that we have 6 monthly meetings a year that are fully serviced by the council staff, and 6 monthly meetings a year that are created as workshops for the community board only, and that way we can reduce, not all of it, we won't have it, but we will get it down to somewhere where I think is a level of service, because quite frankly, Steve, your shared service is pricing yourself out of business.
Is that how much increases on the current year, that 156?
Well, I think the previous, the formula that we developed, well, that was developed, that was in play for, I guess, I don't know, a significant number of years, was around the $110,000 mark. And the board at the point in time rightly asked the questions, Barry, how did you get to that number? And it was historically just a formula that was applied that said this is roughly the amount. And rightfully the board questioned, how did that number come about? So what we were tasked to do probably around the middle of the year was to do kind of a time analysis on how much work went into producing reports and advice for this board on a monthly basis. It also includes your support costs that are around your fix, which is your laptops, being able to live stream this so members of the community can see this and also have it recorded so that they can see it after the fact, so that we can all go back and see it online. So it's a mixture of all of those costs, and that's what we're asked to do. So we put this number forward so that the board could then direct us, staff, and through me, as to how did you want to see this work? Because I know the previous board, and I get the sense this board is going to do the same. The amount of engagement you're going to do with your residents associations is that really critical connector. Was a really big component of the previous board's work, and I can see it's going to be the same. And so your opportunity that if you spread it out, you can drop the cost, but you've also given yourself more time to work with the community. So yeah, hopefully that answers it. I understand what you're saying, but it's around that clarity of how do we get there.
All right, any other members of
Yeah.
frequency? Just a bit of frequency for start. As I see it from the chair, we're all new at this game. I mean, John's had 2 years last, and but our other members are all new, and my last time was 20 years ago, so it's a bit out of date. Samantha.
Yep. So I understand the drive to save cost, and I would like to support that initiative to try and save money. However, I have a concern that if we move to a 2-month period, that it's quite a long time to wait to make decisions, especially if we're here to support the community and to drive forward on actions. We need the ability to be able to make timely decisions. So is there a process that we can adopt to have decisions made in between those months if we do reduce the number of meetings offline? Is there a process where you can adopt?
There would be the ability to call extraordinary meetings of the community board if there was a material decision that couldn't wait for that 2-month window. And you're right, there might be some things where there's really important community feedback. I guess this also goes hand in hand with the other discussion around actually looking at your delegations for the year and the term coming up, and thinking about what are the delegations you actually need to exercise. Because at the moment, there isn't a lot of actual decision making that you're delegated. There's a lot of receipt of information. There's a lot of feedback that you provide staff. You have a lot of questions you pose on a monthly or whatever basis comes back to staff and then we try and give it back to you in the form of an agenda paper that sees and puts the answer in the community environment. So I don't think there's anything that would stop you making decisions, but I don't think equally there's much that you're making formal decisions on, apart from receiving information.
I hear what you're saying, but I guess we're a new community board now, and there may be activities that come up in the next 3 months that we would like to get going. And then, maybe after that, we can move to alternative months. So my proposal is maybe meet every month for the next 3 months and then alternative months, and say 8 months a year, which still saves you about 104K in the budget.
So I think that's a reasonable idea. And just for clarity, the budget it will go into the annual plan and will go for consultation, and then the rates will be set around the end of June next year. What you could do is for the first 6 months, you could set up that you run on a monthly basis, and then you move to bi-monthly basis from July to then retain that saving that is there, hypothetically, and then there's nothing stopping you calling extraordinary meetings if something changes after that point. The board can also at any time change the frequency of your meetings, but I guess what we're trying to do is just say that we're going to have to rate the community for a certain level of service, and we wanted to give you the chance to have that debate. It's important, I think, if you set the meeting schedules now, at least set it for the next 6 months, but know that the budget is then from July to June 26 to 27.
May I ask a question? Having come from a small business background and looking at our charge out rates and the odd occasion when we have done work where we've been told our charge out rate at $95 an hour was too dear, I'm mystified as to how a council can have charge out rates as dear as what I'm seeing on the screen. Now, if I was discussing a quotation with a private contractor, I have an option of being able to argue their rates and talk the rates down. Not so in a situation where we're dealing with a monopoly supplier. Are those rates negotiable? Because they seem very bloody high. Excuse the language.
Code of conduct.
Sorry, sir. Extremely high, sir.
Alan, what I can do is I can give you a bit of a breakdown of what that covers, because it covers all of the, I guess, the hourly costs associated with the staff in a building, with the IT and laptops and all the other services around that go around that role. But it might be something I can bring back to you and the board for the next meeting.
Yeah.
You don't need to kind of agree the cost, but having an understanding. But ideally, you can set your calendar schedule for that first 6 months, noting that the council, where we got to with the previous board, was with the change to the representation review. Sorry to go back to that. But we also recognised there was a problem with the formula. When West Melton came out, we had no ability to reset a rate.
Yeah.
So we just stuck with that $30,000 support charge to get us through that 12-month period to transition to something hopefully better and clearer and more understandable. Not entirely sure if we're all going to like the answer, but at least you've now got a chance to ask the question. I can come back to you on that detail.
Yeah, that would be nice to know if it was negotiable.
Okay.
All right, well, where does that leave us with sorry?
No, I was just going to say, I love all the bits and pieces. I came in here with the mindset that the six a year was going to be a great idea, but I do appreciate completely what you're saying with bits. I don't know if it would make any difference even just making it 2.5 hours for the meeting, since you've got everything all set up, whether that half an hour would be enough to get someone in, whether it's someone from CORD that can, because I know there's a few things that we're going to need to do, like go and see things and as a group try and solve together. I don't know if that's another option, but it's only small sort of thing. But I agree with this 6 monthly, or if we do for the first few, do, as you said, first 3 even monthly, see how you feel.
Well, I for one think that the first 6 months are going to be really important, because otherwise the ratepayers say, what do you do? Now, for instance, I've got a real thing about these roadside plantings on trees down the main highway. I'm going to shade the road from Hoskins Road through to Yelphurst. Now, we as a council, committee of council, what we like to call it, need to have a policy about roadside plantings, on particularly the north side. And if you look at all from the Aylesbury corner all the way down, new plantings, that's not good practice. I mean, unless they're trimmed. But you see that those trees, they're all shrubs, not Pinus radiatus. I mean, people have gone to considerable expense to do that. But in so doing so, you'll have a slippery road. And the other thing I've got to think about is the condition of some of the roads, and particularly I want to know as a board how we can ensure that, say, Hoskins Road gets done up. Now, I know it's on the program, but it's got to be made so it's up to it's a link road from Malvern into Rolleston, and it's substandard. Now, it's going to be done, I understand.
Yeah.
But
I can talk to that later.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So those are the kind of things that.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing the board right, that is it. So if I look at the 2 recommendations, B and C in the paper, so that the frequency of Malvern Community Board meetings will be monthly until July, and then bi-monthly after that.
What do you think, Barry?
Have it monthly until July, and then we'll review it then as to whether we want it bi-monthly, because we will have all know a bit more about our workload and how much engagement we're actually getting.
That review will need to have been concluded in February, because you will need
because
to then,
because
you'll need to be able to then consult with the community on setting a draft budget. So what may be the one thing I can do in January is bring you back, if not earlier, bring you back a detailed breakdown of what has gone into those support costs, so that you can then make the call to address Alan's concern.
I don't think that's going to change anything.
Yeah,
when you bring that information back, we're just going to get a bit more information and a bit of a different flavour on it. So I'd be quite happy to agree with Evan and go for monthly, and then if the review then would be December, February 26, 27.
Okay. So state monthly. So the recommendation B now reads that the frequency of the Malvern Community Board meetings will be monthly. And recommendation C, that the Malvern Community Board meetings will be held on the, if I can propose, the 4th week at 3:30 of every Thursday. Have I got that right, Chair?
Yes. And does the 2 hours give us enough time to have a proper meeting and get the business done?
In most cases, yes.
We'll make sure it happens, will we?
Yes, that is our job at the top table. Yes. There'll always be exceptions to the rule, though.
Yeah.
And I think, the benefit of allowing public forum and the feedback we've got today is actually really helpful for the work of the board and also for the staff. But certainly we don't want to tighten it down so much that we have to restrict, or we want to restrict it, because actually this board operates really well on that flavour of a bit of informality and letting people come in. I think that's got to be a spirit to be kept.
Well, we could perhaps, if we run out of time, come forward to 3 o'clock start.
We could. Would 3 o'clock be a problem at all?
Not for me, it wouldn't be, but I mean,
3 o'clock would be preferred for me.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we play 3 o'clock?
Yeah, I can live with 3 o'clock.
Okay.
And that means then if we
finish
finish early, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it does give us a little more scope to be able to include more of the public in our meetings. And in fact, we could nearly schedule the first half hour or first 20 minutes for public forum, and then move on to business.
All right. Well, we'll try that, will we?
Right. So
I need someone to move that, don't I?
Are we clear on the recommendation C, held on the 4th? Sorry, on the
4th Thursday.
Yeah.
Can I just ask?
Is it the 4th or the
Reason
last?
we're going to check out Easter and any statutory holidays. And how did you find out they're still coming forward?
It doesn't affect a Thursday.
No public holidays on Thursdays. So
Well, that's good, isn't it?
it is. Yeah. We don't miss an inauguration day on the 25th.
So the recommendation is will be held on the Thursday at 3 p.m. of every fourth week, or the last Thursday if there's we get the feel. Yeah.
All right.
Are we okay with?
So we're going to move that, or is it?
And I'll second it.
You second it, Bex. We've had a good discussion on it. I think it's a good start, and progress can be made, and we can change as we go through if we have to. So I'll put the resolution. All in favour, say aye. Against, carried. Thank you.
So one last item that I've been asked to just encourage a debate on, we're going to ask Matt Logan to quickly step to the table, is there's just a bit of an update on the Darfield artwork. Matt's drafted a really good summary. We've been asked to ensure that this board can provide some feedback on this piece, to then kind of go into informing council as to where and what needs to happen. Matt, is there anything else you need to add to this, what you've added, or just be happy to answer questions?
Yeah, happy to answer questions. I I guess the only thing is the cost. I'm sure that would be one of the first questions. At the original meeting in 2021, the elected members allocated $25,000 per ward. So that is the cost.
Yeah, just so members of the public and even ourselves, just my understanding was that in 2021, there was some money put aside for artwork to go out here in the corner out here. There's been a design drafted up. It's aluminium foils to represent the braided rivers. And it's sitting on a plinth made of red brick underneath to bring in that local business down the road, if you like. But could you expand on that a bit? Because
I think that can.
I think you've actually done a very nice job.
You could expand on the creative.
So when we met with the previous Malvern Community Board, or perhaps two Malvern Community Boards ago, given the time frame we're talking about, they spoke about the important themes being gateway to scenic attractions, braided rivers, mountains, ski fields, hot air balloons, this type of thing, an arable farming area and an ongoing history of agriculture, and the key role that water plays in both farming and in life in the Malvern district, and the proximity to the two significant waterways in the Waimakariri and the Rakaia. So the artist, I guess, has picked up on those key themes that the previous Malvern Community Board identified around the braided rivers, and also, yeah, I guess the history of the land and its relation to the brickworks.
And the height of that sculpture, just from the drawing here, is it a metre high or metre and a half?
I don't have the exact on the top of my head. It looks about like 1.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's Castleberry.
Just a couple of questions.
Yeah.
How much of the 25,000 has been spent?
So far, getting to this point, 5,000.
5,000?
Yeah.
Is there any penalty if it doesn't proceed?
No.
So I'd like the board members to think about going back to the residents' associations and getting information from them, because my informal conversations, and I've got to put it quite eloquently, that given the fact that those things were previously considered by previous boards, we've got a new mandate and economic times, and not that I'm saying it's representative, but most people that have spoken to me have been quite clear and flat, no.
And that's absolutely the reason I'm here, and that we've invited feedback from this current Malvern Community Board.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, if it doesn't go ahead, what will happen with the leftover 20,000? Where does it go? Does it stay as in the arts area for something else, or does it just get absorbed and could be anywhere?
So the mechanics of that fund are that Selwyn District Council puts $5,000 per year into an art acquisition fund. The way back when history is that perhaps one artwork per year will be bought for that kind of money, but the proposal was to pool that money instead and to be able to purchase, like, I guess, works which might have a greater significance to the community. They can be in the public and they can be viewed by more people. So the art acquisition fund would just like retain that money.
And so it could end up going to another part of Selwyn. It wouldn't stay in Malvern.
That money's not, I guess the council decision specifically allocates that money to be used in the Malvern district.
So this current expenditure is based on a previous council decision. So any change to this would come back to the new council to decide on.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not a brand new thing. If you said this since 21, then COVID came along and nothing happened, and now we've got a new board and it's being put before us.
Yeah.
We want this artwork here and this.
Yes, correct.
But I like John's idea of going back to the residents' associations and having another look at it. Even if we look at it, if we still don't have to proceed with it, but at least we get some feedback.
Sure.
We might get a better design or quite a different one.
Yeah, I mean, you would be, if you want a different design, I would suggest you're probably working with a different artist, which would then, you're basically probably starting the process pretty much over again.
So what are we going back to the communities
Well,
about? Are we going back with them right at ground zero that says, do you really want us to spend this this amount of money on an artwork that represents the Malvern district, or are we saying this is an option of the artwork? Do we agree with that?
I think the key question and the feedback today is, and if John's idea appeals, that your question would be, do you want this artwork still? And then any questions about we want a different artwork, we want more artwork, would be a matter for the annual plan, where the communities could then submit to the council that we want to see more art or less art. But this specific question is, do you want this to progress as it currently stands? We're at a point now where we can either decide to go or not go, and I think that's the feedback we need to get from the community before about February to advise the council on what the view looks like.
All right,
I
well,
just had a question. Yeah. So was there a few options that the previous board was made aware of and they decided on this design? Or is this just the design that?
So the Malvern Community Board, there was a selection panel. It wasn't the Malvern Community Board that made the decision about the artwork. Former Councillor Bob Mugford was on that selection panel, but as were people from other parts of the arts community in Malvern.
Okay.
So there were two options, and the selection panel unanimously selected this one.
Okay.
Is this going across? So sorry.
Yeah, look, I'd be willing to move something along the lines that, with a nice paragraph to explain that the community board representatives get back to the associations and say, should this proceed, yes or no, and respond by such and such a date.
yeah. Right. So you'd like to move something like that? And
I'd like to second that if that's all right.
Alan? Yep.
Therese, have you got?
Is that across the? So we're going to ask all of the community groups about this artwork that is going to be located in Darfield.
Well, that's the resolution is.
Okay. No, I just need to be clear, because if I ask Castle Hill and Arthur's Pass about do they want an artwork sculpture outside the service centre in Darfield, I think I'm going to get the same spelling answer that John just gave us before.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Springfield on that too.
Yes. Yeah.
But maybe I'd be willing. Was it a Darfield specific, or was it a Melbourne broader?
It was the Malvern Community Board who provided the thematic analysis. The briefing.
So I feel comfortable because we're Melbourne, even though it's at Darfield and the Gateway, getting the wider view. If that's my motion.
I would suggest that, seeing we've got representation from community boards here at the moment who are wholly negative towards it so far, I agree you need to go and talk to all the community boards. But $20,000 is an awful lot of money that could be saved, or ring fence for other projects of merit in the community. Gateway signage to the Malvern district wouldn't be a silly idea either.
Well, what say we leave this, hold this over? I mean, and we can talk among ourselves and come up with we've got something to think about. It doesn't have to be decided today, I don't think. I mean, waiting is 2021, hard times that make things a bit more realistic.
Yeah.
So put it on hold, but talk to your residents associations and we'll look at it again in January.
But I think we do need to also say to the residents associations while we're talking to them that, because they're all going to say, oh, it'd be better going to a hall. I can see every single one of them basically saying that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this money's still not going to go into a hall.
No.
It's going to go into some sort of art thing. And if we do, I mean that nicely, respectfully, sorry, an art project. So if we don't go ahead with this, we may lose it for Malvern. I know you said it ideally it would, but we may not get it. So it's not going to
Correct me
help.
if I'm wrong, Steve, but it would have to go back to council because it was council that made the decision about spending.
So if we don't do this one thing, it possibly could beautify a little bit, or it could be seen as ugly depending on how they see it. We are likely to lose it for maybe a project in Rolleston or somewhere else.
Yeah.
All right, so what are we doing, committee?
Well,
Putting your
Mr.
resolution?
Chair, I've put a motion.
Right.
I'd like to see if there's a seconder, if not the
Well,
motion.
we've got a second. All right, so can we just read the motion out again and please?
Feedback to the Residents Association across the Melbourne ward and ask for their feedback of whether the artwork should be.
All right, well, that's pretty clear, isn't it?
Yeah.
And includes the whole paragraph.
Yeah, so we'll provide the supporting information to get to you to then share with the residents associations.
All right, had a good discussion.
We need a unified message that we deliver the same message pretty much at the same time to all of them without any flavour.
Yeah.
All right, well,
We'll do what we can to write that,
Yeah.
Barry. We'll leave it to the delivery agents to deliver.
all right, I'll put the resolution. All in favour, say aye. Against, carried, thank you. Now, time's marching on, members. We've got approximately half an hour less. Steve, what have you got to
Take
deal
the
with?
report. Take the rest of my report as read. Is there any questions on the remainder of what I've attached?
Can I just from chair ask, in the assets you listed of what the council owns, there's been no mention of all the cenotaphs around the country. Now, who owns them?
Not council.
But they're on council land.
They will be on reserve land, which may be administered by council, that is owned by the Crown, but the cenotaphs themselves belong to, and I'm looking at some people down the back who are mouthing the answer for me, and I don't quite have it. So they're not owned by council. The land is administered by council, and apologies if a member of the board can answer that for my lack of knowledge.
Well, I just was reading through the list of assets and thought, well, okay. So it's work in progress?
This was one of those other actions where the previous board wanted to see what other community assets were in the Malvern ward that you may want to take the other information you've had and start to debate and decide what is your delegation dream.
All right. Okay.
And then the scope of some of the supporting information gives you a sense of what could you potentially make decisions on, and then what would you then ask the council to share. So hopefully put that in an aspirational manner.
Did we put that resolution? Not yet.
So what resolution are we going to put?
There is no resolution, just any questions on this one?
Okay, the delegations, 2.4, where it says consider and assist road names within the board's area, I would like to move that the board request the Selwyn District Council to amend 2.4 in the delegations to read to approve road names within the board's area.
In other words, make a recommendation to council. Yeah.
I don't think we can make the decision. And taking a liberty, my reason is that at the moment, an officer prepares a report. The previous board considered and assisted and recommended the road names, whereas it seems to me it would be more financially effective if the roading people prepared a report, the community board had the delegated authority to say yes, and that would be a cost saving and reduce the number of hours that are charged to service the board.
One of the reasons, one of the things that names, council got a policy on what names can be used, and council, in my opinion, experience, don't want a name that's similar to one at just in Ellesmere. Ashburton, but next door, you know. So, and hence when we had Glenmark Drive over there.
Conflict of interest, Mr.
Okay, withdraw that. The name of the sailing ship, so there's no dollars involved. anyway, there's a protocol to go through about if you want the board to do that, you have to know and understand council's protocol. We'd be recommending to council that name would be so and so.
So I guess the member has moved a motion, so whether or not there's a second.
Okay. Do we have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll see it.
All right.
And just further discussion, Mr. Chair, when the report comes to the community board, it does have all that information. So it's quite a fulsome report.
Okay.
And my understanding is once the board previously recommended it, then the officer had to go and redo it all and present almost the same report to full council, but it just said, and the Melbourne Community Board recommended this.
Okay.
So I would, as a corollary, I would just say that we would be making a decision using the same policies and procedures that are currently in play.
All
And
right.
all that means is that the decision is under all the same rules and stops here instead of the duplication.
All right. Put the resolution on favour, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you.
So the process from here, if I may, just for clarity, is that I'll now draft a paper from the board that I will present to council at their next available meeting, probably in February, with this recommendation, and then the council will then vote on whether or not they're prepared to give the delegation back to this community board. So that's the process, and I'll undertake that now.
Thank you. All right. Now, and because of time's marching on, we're now on to the reports for the individual members. And I'm going to take it that all the reports at the table have been read. And I'll just ask each member to briefly summarise a couple of main things. Now, I'll start off with my own report. It was one of the shortest ones, a lot there, but basically just said it went to the Greendale meeting and the Darfield DRA meeting. Santa's Grotto has taken a huge amount of time, but also represented council at the Roy Alley, which I didn't mention about, and one or two other things. Went to the reopening of the White Cliffs former school as a whole. So is any discussion, ask me, and well, I can move on to the next one. All right, the next one was from Bex.
I'll try and make it quicker because I've written a wee bit actually. I've loved getting to know all these new people in the community, which has been great. I've been to Arthur's Pass, and although that's Barry's main area, he'll be able to talk about it a bit more. But I know that there was a real feeling of Castle Hill being the main person, and they were second best to it from what people were saying to me. Done multicultural dinners, Rewe Alley anniversary, White Cliffs Hall opening, Springfield Hotel opening, and planting trees. Spent time with the locals in Sheffield, and that went well with the Christmas party as well. And they're passionate about their hall, of course, and would like to see the council's plans for the future, as maintenance of the hall has been quite an issue for them not getting done. And one of the locals, Eddie, there is going to hopefully do a country festival in the next year to 2 years. Go Hawarata and the Trust, we've been busy with the Highland Games. Both myself and my family all volunteered during the Games, and it's one of the most incredibly run events I've ever been to. They were all like a big family. They had 11,000 people go through the gates. 110 solo pipers had to be judged on the one day. They had the heavy lifters, which was eye-opening, and 278 motorhomes set up, and of that, 71% of people were from outside of Selwyn that were there, so it was great for the economy. The Selwyn Hall renovations are all set hopefully for July to go ahead. They're concerned with the council tightening belts that they might get pushed back a little bit for their jobs. And the tennis court's got issue with roots coming through the court. Their meetings are positive. Like as soon as someone said, oh, this is a situation, everyone had answers, and they were all just jumping and what they could do to help. It was incredible to listen to. It was great to have the residents associations all together for that meeting, so really enjoyed that. And I went to supported other board members for Greendale and White Cliffs. Glen Tunnel RA, they're concerned about the hall's future once again. We've worked through putting making the hall watertight because of stick javelin through the roof. We've discussed the slash that's on the bridge. And NZTA just grabbed it and moved it to the other side of the bridge. So next flood will push it down to the next bridge. So we're working on that at the moment. And Joyce Reserve, there's a table that was sitting on a bit of concrete. Some lovely Freedom campers destroyed it. So the council took it away and this stage refusing to bring it back a new one. So we're working on trying to get that back there for them. Primary school's got flooding issues outside from the road, and it's as soon as the kids get out of the cars, they're all stepping in it. Went to the Coleridge meeting and had an amazing tour all around the community. Hot topic was the drinking water and wastewater. They're getting it dealt with at the moment, but the machinery broke and they've got to get a piece in from Germany, so that slowed everything down. And they wanted to know where their 10-year plan is still sitting in the 10-year plan side of things. Yesterday I was lucky enough to go to Glenroy and had a nativity play with the most amazing kids that did that, but they're also been in the 48-hour film festival and won the national competition, and they got a little AP which has only ever been given to the adults in their 48-hour film festival. They've got that was done by Weta Productions that they get to keep for life, which is just fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with in the future. And what else was there? I said about the Glenroy primary school shutting and how it's affected them. Went from that to the Horata Parish Fair. They had a nativity play, but it was a completely adult run one with a Mary's donkey that was on heat, and Jesus was born in behind the pub. And it was just a lot of colourful language, and it was really exciting. And they were such a cool group, nearly finished. And last but not least, the grotto. That's, I think for all of us has been a huge thing that's come about of he said, she said, cancelling and things like that. At the end of the day, we've been pulling it together, and as a community group, nothing to do with the DRA or ourselves, and hopefully next year we can form a committee that will then
take it over,
separate from DRA, from the Darfield Residents Association and from ourselves, that can then move forward, because in 3 years' time you don't want the same thing to ever happen again that's happened this time around. And I look forward to working closely with these groups and making a difference to the communities, and that's me.
Thank you, Beth.
That's it, fast enough.
Barry, your turn.
Yes, so I've been involved with a number of things up trust and following up on a few things that sort of it. I raised an issue with search systems with Tim Mason, and he put me on to that more, and so that was a really interesting discussion. We managed to get a couple of things over the line, and I think that are sort of still in debate. Within the Others Past community, I've been really strong on advocating for using Snapsense Solve. What we found is that if we use Snapsense Solve with a chain of events that can be followed through all the way right to the end, where jobs get put to a contractor, there's a charge code, and then we get some action. So in the last week, they've had HEB up there, so there was a huge issue with drainage off Platform Road, and that drain was cleaned out on Thursday completely. It was a bit of a mission because we'd had some dislocation. It disaffected people between two of the owners and SDC in the past, all of whom said, you're not coming back on my land again, and we managed to pull a load of people off the ceiling and get that work done, which was really good. There was a long-standing one up on School Terrace. It was a big washout, and they've done that. We've done that, and I've had a slight walk down Break Creek with Sandy McQueen, and identified some areas that can be done and some areas that should not be done. So it's been a pretty good, busy time, very successful. When I spoke with Gareth and we talked about the road markings at the Waimak Bridge following our residents meeting, Gareth said we're doing a painting trial that's got fluorescent paint on it, and that's been trialled in Lincoln on a pedestrian crossing, and he said that would be an excellent place to do it, so they've scheduled it to be done on the Waimak Bridge as well. So win-wins on all of those things. So I'm really pleased to be able to work with the community for this.
Thank you, Barry. Now, Samantha's last, are you? Oh, sorry. Who's next? Ellen, is it? Yeah. Oh.
It's been an interesting couple of months we put our teeth into. We met the Jujitsu student group and that was quite interesting. It did show the value of the sister city relationship, and thoroughly enjoyed the combined MCP and Resident Community Association movement. That sort of meeting there, when we get all of the work, all of the citizen groups together in one go, is actually quite cost effective and time effective for the members here as well. In terms of meetings attended, I've been to the Dartford Residents Association with Evan and also with Councillor Wilshire, which was a productive meeting. We did highlight the events that the DRA had planned, which was positive. There was issued contention that the MCB was looking after the Santa's Grotto when it was actually not promised or recorded in earlier MCB minutes, even though our logo was used on a flyer by the school to say that the MCB were actually operating. In terms of other visits, been up to Springfield to the Bureau Hall, was made very welcome by an absolutely passionate group of people up there. They've raised their Christmas event. That's got a bouncy castle. They weren't happy with the length of time and the cost for an events permit of apparently $300, which seems excessive. They need to clarify the cost of that permit in relation to time spent on it, the time frame to actually have a permit issued. The locals have been planting and beautifying their town, but no council have had to pay for any of those plants, which is very good for the township. There was some infrequent dismay about the infrequency of the local lawns and birds as being mowed by cord. Can we have a mowing schedule for them, please? Do that, that would be appreciated. The hall, yeah, the council, the Residents Association are very concerned about that, as we've heard tonight from Graham. And there was a meeting in January with Council Perry to try and see what pathway forward council are considering. We've heard a bit more from council tonight, so that's positive. But they are also very aware of the mechanism for the handover of the Hororata Hall and the funds that came with that. And that's a rather interesting precedent going forward.
Can you just turn him off? Sorry, I should have.
Apologies. The GAPS proposal, they were very positive about that. So we hope to bring that later on in general business. They got an issue with people urinating around the donut area. They're talking of addressing that by planting some thick bushes in the corner. Personally, I think goosegogs would be good. Gooseberries might work. They've suggested better signage on as one approaches the town to assist to point out where the correct toilets are. So if the council could get onto that and do it with some urgency, that would be appreciated too. On the 6th of December, I attended the Colgate Fire Station where the Residents Association did a very successful Christmas party. They've been running it successfully now for 18 years, and this year had 70 to 90 locals, including some new people to the community as their own first community event, who were very impressed with it. I met up with Daryl Smith, the president. It's a bit of a hard case. And as far as their major activities going forward, they've got public toilets on the reserve on Bridge Street that have been budgeted for. So we need to work with the community and council to make a successful fruition to that project. And also there's apparently a large water tank and upgrade of the local water supplies to be done. So that might tie in with what you were talking about, Bex.
Thank you.
And then also been helping out with the Santa's Grotto community group. So that's progressing well. Signs have changed. Lots of volunteer hours have been put in, not so many for me. I do apologise for not wrapping the gifts when you guys did. But this looks like it's going to be a very good event.
Right, thank you, Alan. And finally, Samantha's one. Could you just outline the...
I'll assume, can you hear me? Yeah. I'll assume my board report has been read, and I'll just summarise the key highlights of the report. So I had a query through from a community member asking about the Malvern Recreational Sports Centre and swimming pool. So it is in the long-term plan to commence in FY 26-27 with detailed planning and consultation around location. Then a swimming pool replacement is not part of this project, but co-location and future proofing will be part of the scope and consideration when the project commences planning in FY 26 and 27. Also included in the board report in Appendix A is the finalised list for MCB members aligned to the various Community Residents Association group. Also attended the MCB and community group workshop in November. A couple of actions came out of that we had to take back to our community groups. So one was around the fundraising opportunity presented by Alan Peacock on the CAPS. A couple of feedback has been received from the Kirwi Residents Association, but they would like another month to come back to you on the decision on their proposal to allow for more feedback from the community. Feedback from Kirwi regarding the bus trial was also very positive that was discussed. Also at that meeting was raised community interest raised on the use of commuter trains for the Malvern community. A number of community members approached me after the meeting to progress looking at a trial, which I am keen to support as a long-term initiative. I would like to move an action for me to progress with looking into feasibility of doing a trial on the use of commuter trains for Malvern and feeding back to the board on findings.
Thank you very much.
I'll just pause there to get a second.
Well,
before I continue.
You moved it. You do a study on commuter trains.
Yes.
Righto. You've heard the resolution. Is someone wanting to prepare to second it, John? Yep.
Thank you. I'll carry on. I also attended the
Need a vote.
I'll need
sorry.
to vote that. All in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you.
Thank you. I also attended the Sister City Committee meeting as the Malvern Community Board representative, which was post-submitting my board report. Sister City Committee would like to present to MCB in the February board meeting, and I'd like to move they be added to the agenda list, please. Do I need to wait?
You don't need a resolution for that, surely.
No, I think we can just make
Okay.
it.
You recommend.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And
Yes,
at the
ma'am.
last, yeah, sorry, can I continue? Yeah. And at the last board meeting, there was an action for board members to think about the roles they would be interested in covering. I'm keen to develop a 3-year strategy for the Malvern Community Board, which may include updating the current brochures and various communication aspects. And I would like to move an action for me to own and commence these activities.
I think you can just, I don't think you need a mover and a seconder on that one. I think if you all agree that Samantha can
Brilliant.
undertake that work, then I think that's just noted in the minutes.
Thank you. That's the end of my highlights.
Well, thank you very much, members. Samantha, on the list of members assigned to community groups, you could add Harad to that list.
Oh, did I miss that off?
All right. Yeah. I mean, it's just a.
Oh, they are on the list. It's called Go Hororata Residents. That is the Hororata
okay.
community group.
Righto. So that's the same thing.
Yes.
Righto. Thank you. John, did you have a comment?
My report is succinct and able to be read. The only thing I'd like to say is just the support for the chair's comment about the Malvern Health and Community Welfare Trust that has a team of dedicated nurses, and the situation at the Malvern Hospital is dire, that there's now apparently no room for anyone to go there for respite, so they have to go out of the district. And I would suggest that maybe the chair and I follow that through outside the meeting. And the other one was the community funding that was taken away from the community board, not that I'm sour, and centralised. And they had their first meeting a couple of weeks ago, and there was a suggestion there that the executive leader provide a summary to the community board on the grants made in the Tawera Malvern ward for the January meeting.
Thank you. Well, that's pretty well reported on, and
you might,
Steve, have you got
yes,
some?
sorry, you might, sorry, just from a procedural point of view, what I think you've done is you've all presented it really quickly, and I think the chair appreciates that, but we've all missed individually accepting and receiving your report formally. So I'm wondering if you're okay with this, that we package all of the reports up and
One resolution.
one resolution. So we need a mover and a seconder for that, and then you vote.
I've moved it.
Cool.
Oh, thank you, Steve. And all in favour,
Is
say
there
aye.
any discrepancy at all? Like, I wasn't at your Betsy, but you mentioned I was. Does that need to be addressed or not, or it's just accepted?
I think we can make a note if there's any
Yep.
question, we can deal with that
Right,
in
we
the
can pause it
minutes,
there.
but it's just for receiving. We'll
I'm
tidy that up.
sorry.
All right,
Yeah.
put the resolution, all in favour, say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Now, we're nearly up to time. Pardon?
The finance report.
Yes, now, Steve's got the finance.
Yeah,
report.
so apologies for the timing issue we had on the circulation of the finance report. The bulk of the report just provides the normal financial performance year to date. But you'll see that there's a bit of information at the end of that, which is closing off some questions that the previous board asked at their last meeting for staff to bring back advice for the new community board. So those answers are there. I'm just going to take the report as read and then happy to answer any questions through the chair.
Thank you. Yes, well, it's good to get, and now we've got a bit of an idea how it's all going. Anyone got any comments to make or questions?
The $435 to Darfield High School, my recollection is that it was $500.
Correct. Yeah, it is.
GST, wasn't it?
That's the GST exclusive amount that's recorded there, but it is 500. They receive $500.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
All right. Well,
So we just need a mover and seconder.
someone move and second that,
I'll
moved
move
by
it.
Bex, that we accept the report, and Alan, you've can second it? Yeah, okay, thank you. Moved and seconded. The report we received, warm say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried, thank you. Well, it gets,
Discussion?
now discussions, before I close the meeting, what have you got, John?
That just looking at the value of the Malvern ward rates, wondering whether, and I think this may be under action, that the total revenue collected from Malvern could be included, and then the community centre rate of $1 million would find it helpful as to some sort of breakdown on how this was spent around the community, and especially in relation to what are the main categories, and also that the recreation reserve, is there a breakdown as to how much is spent on each reserve? Because the feedback that I've been receiving is that in relation to the community halls and the reserves, that it would be helpful to know, as we had earlier, what the mowing schedule is and what people are getting in the way of value for money in a nice way. And then in relation to the swimming pools, it seems to me that there's a desire within the community, and this is a bigger question just being signalled, that the zones be changed, because if we have a look at the grouping, I'm unclear as to how they're all grouped together. And it seems to me that a possible way would be that the closer you are to a swimming pool, the higher the rate should be for that particular swimming pool. So, and then also there's the Sheffield swimming pool that now that it's moved from the council into hopefully community, what sort of money is going to come, or do the people in Sheffield get a reduction in their targeted rate because the pool is now in community ownership, not the council's ownership?
Right, well, it's quite a bit there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think between Therese and I will make sure we've covered off your specific questions. I think these will be all details that we will probably carry forward, both in response to the Malvern community and the community board, but also in bringing that detail through in the annual plan deliberations and the draft budget preparation that's going on at the moment.
Is there going to be an update on when the pool can be open at Sheffield? For this season rather than next, well, this coming It's hot.
I think, look, there's a
Okay.
number of procedural things going on that I can give you a sense at your next meeting as to what those are, where the process is at, and the various Crown departments that we're having to engage with in support of the community trust. So there's a bit of work I need to do, but I'll probably need to bring that back to the next meeting.
The asset list showed that the change rooms for that pool were still vested in council. I'm just confused with, if the pool's changing ownership, surely the change room should change ownership as well.
Yeah, you're right. Let me check that.
All right. Okay. So we'll get a report update on in January, end of January. By that time, the summer's nearly gone, isn't it? As you said down the back, it might. All right. Well, is any further discussion in the general business?
Yeah.
Yep.
One was around reporting. Sorry, one was around the reporting of the of wider things within Selwyn. So we get a lot of questions around information holes. So particularly around snaps and solves, and it will be really good on a monthly basis if we get an update of completed, in hand, delayed, pending. Okay, and that would
And
be
this is just for our area.
Yes, just for the Malvern area.
Yeah.
Ultimately, when I talked to Anton, I think in IT at one stage, and he said that they had thought of putting together a dashboard that would cover those sorts of things.
Yeah, we do have a dashboard.
Yeah, right.
So I'll bring it back to the
So
next
that would
meeting.
be so that would be really good. And a similar thing regarding the capital works program, and even alluded to that.
I've got that
too. Yeah.
What I've got to do is just find the easiest way to get that. Yeah, because you can imagine there's actually quite a lot of detail in there is to get the right level. But I'll produce a draft report for you next meeting, and you can determine if that answers all of your specific questions as a collective board.
Yeah, because I think I'm not sure how your system runs. Sorry, how the system runs, but about like a bang on a Power BI report would probably just spit that. Sorry, Samantha.
And can we have on the list for the next meeting? I've talked to a few people about redesigning this jolly logo.
If you could get that to
I think I can look after that because
You
they'll
look
be
after
part
that?
of the 3-year plan.
Talk to Alan, he's got a few ideas.
Yes, no
And
problem.
we want something a bit more, they look like cool kids.
I'll add it to the list.
20 grand.
Well,
I'll add it to the list.
Thank you.
I had a question around the finance report.
Sure.
Yeah. So in one of the attachment on your report, Steve, there was a mention around discretionary fund. Is that also in, how does that relate to the financial report as a line item? Or is that a separate fund altogether, not part of the financial report?
Can you draw me to the page?
It's on page 21.
Of board books.
Of the board book.
Okay.
And it's section 5, item 5. And it's about Malvern Community Board having a discretionary fund from which it can provide grants to a local organisation to assist them in achieving their objectives. So I was just keen to understand what the value of that fund is and whether it is separate to the financial report.
Yeah, so that so you're referring to the terms of reference, and I'm just bringing that report up right now. Sorry. So that is, I think what's happened is this is the terms of reference was adopted by the board before the previous board. At the beginning of their training, I think you've just identified that there is a disconnect here because in subsequent years, that discretionary fund, which is reported in your financial report, is no longer a separate line item.
Okay, so that's why it doesn't appear.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have a discretionary fund.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, that
Great
solves that
question.
problem.
Yeah, one other thing. And just so that we're not crossing over between all of us as members, it would be really helpful if we were dealing with something that is under another person's kind of social license, shall we say, could everybody find it to be able to copy the person in whose that responsibility it is?
Well, I think in the January meeting, we need to get these portfolios sorted out. So that-
Yes,
so-
but
then
there was some issues followed up by Councillor Very around Arthur's past stuff, and I had no idea that had happened, and so we just need to do that. Otherwise, we're all going to start looking silly.
Yeah.
So
All right.
thank you very much.
Okay.
Just on page 21, it talks about civil defence. I'd just rather be proactive earlier than anything happening, and we apparently need training on certain things. So whether that can happen sooner than later, maybe.
Sure. Yep.
Cool.
all right. Well, Alan.
If I could bring forward the CAP proposal, board members understand what this is all about. It's basically to give some better branding for the district, but to also give the MCB and the Residents Association extra funding without going, excuse the pun, cap in hand to council. Part of this is to set up a Malvern Community Fund under council if we can. And we need to work out how the purchasing system works so that every dollar made, if for instance Sheffield want to carry them, personalise their caps, you can change the artwork for them. They can purchase those caps and have a selling price, and every dollar made they keep in terms of profit. And a more generic cap, say for Malvern, which the funds would stay with the MCB and then can be used for various community projects as required. I'd just like to clarify, are members happy that we proceed with that as an initiative, and see how we go from there.
The logo on there is the mountain range, is it?
That's the Toilets range.
Yeah.
Taken off a photograph, so it's correct.
I don't see it as part of community board brief, and I think we've got plenty of work to do out there in the community dealing with issues rather than spending energy on this type of proposal. And so I don't agree with that being progressed.
And I think I've already fed back that Kirby would like another month before their
no problem.
feedback.
I like the idea. I think it's good to have other avenues that maybe people can try and get if we've got a little refunding to happen. I need to get more feedback from my people as well, of course. And but I love the idea. If it's something you want to champion, I can't see why you can't go with it. And you're trying to help the community. And I see that as a good thing.
Have your the new board sign symbol on the side.
We could do that if you wanted to.
No, all in cost. All right. Well, let's put that on the agenda for next meeting. Carry on.
And Alan, what I can do is work with you behind the scenes just to see how we might make that purchasing work to tie it into a formal budget that might come into the next annual operating budget for the community board, and that would be a decision that this board would make in January, February next year.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, time has come and gone, and we've been all over the place today, but I think we can call the meeting close, and we've all got something work to do. And thank you for your company and the public too. Councillor, thank you. Speak up. Nothing that we know of. Saw the finance meeting. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, battling on.